Hi and welcome to another Discover Double Bass video. My name is Jeff Chalmers and I'm here with one of the faculty from discoverdouble.bass.com. It's Dr. Marcos Machado. I know he doesn't like it when I call him doctor, so that's why I'm throwing it in there, but he is actually a professor of music at the University of Southern Mississippi, and he's also filmed a course about left-hand technique for Discover Double Bass. Now, we've been filming all week and Marcos brought his own bass with him. He flew across from the US to the UK and he bought this beautiful instrument, and it's a little bit smaller than normal. So Marcos, we want to discuss the double bass and whether you need some kind of enormous instrument to get a big sound, what the benefits are from playing a smaller instrument. So first of all, tell me about who the maker is of this beautiful double bass.
This is a beautiful instrument made by Italian-Brazilian maker Andrea Espada. He lives in Rio de Janeiro. He's a very, very talented maker, as you can probably see.
Yeah, it's absolutely stunning.
Yes.
And what's the, this is a replica of another instrument that you own, is this correct?
Yes, I have a very old instrument made by David Tekler from Rome. The bass is around 1700s, so it's a very powerful instrument. But it's difficult to travel with it. It reacts to changes of humidity and all that. So I was performing in Brazil, in Minas Gerais, and Andrea Espada came down to watch the performance, and he fell in love with that instrument, and we decided to make a copy. So it's based on my bass with Andrea Espada's own shape ideas, but the idea was for me to have an instrument that has the same dimensions that my bass. As you mentioned, the bass is a little bit smaller because Tekler made basses similar to what Magini did. Magini has also very small basses, beautiful basses, powerful basses. So size doesn't matter sometimes.
Yeah.
Other times for sure it matters. And I've played all my life bigger basses. Even for a few years I had a 7/8 bass that I used. Yeah, all my technique was developed on that bass actually. But now I'm very happy with this small bass. It's very easy to travel with it.
So this is a this is a half-size bass. It's not a 5/8.
It's a hybrid. You can call 5/8 body with it's very hard with basses. But it's a very small bass. Has around 100 centimeters or even less.
It's a slightly, I think it was 97 and a half.
98 or something like this, yeah. So
that's the string length here we're talking about.
Yes, so it's a very small bass, but with a beautiful sound, a powerful sound.
Well, can we just have a quick look at the back as well? Let's turn this beautiful thing over and see if we can get this on some of the cameras. I don't know whether or not we can catch that, but yeah, it really is stunning.
And what it's surprising about the bass because of its size is the power has a big sound, especially on the low register. It has big, deep, big bass. It's a very powerful instrument.
And I love the evenness of the tone across the register. Perhaps you could just play for us for a minute.
Yeah, I can play a scale. You can see it's a very even instrument. It sounds very well balanced across the strings. Yeah,
I absolutely noticed that. And when we were talking about playing using different fingerings, and when you were doing that, they all just sounded so even. Yeah, so even, exactly. Tell me briefly, what strings do you have on here? I see you've got a mixed set.
Yeah, strings is very personal things. I've been using spiral chords on the bottom, 2 strings for quite some time. Now I think that I'm pretty settle on that.
Yeah.
Top strings, I keep changing. I go from bel cantos, sometimes flexochord, passione, or deluxe.
Yes.
So I'm very flexible with the top 2 strings, depending of what I'm doing. If I'm soloing with orchestra, if I need more power, if I'm playing Bach cello suite, I will change it to a different set of strings. So I'm constantly changing and searching.
And of course, this is orchestra tuning you're in at the moment.
Yes.
And is your other bass in solo tuning, and do you just kind of mix it up depending on what the repertoire needs?
Yeah, most of the time I'm in solo tuning because that's what I've been doing the most. But yes, sometimes I use orchestra tuning like I did for these tutorials.
Yeah, well, it really is an absolutely beautiful bass. And would you recommend going for a slightly smaller instrument? I mean, we're kind of joking around a little bit with the size thing, but I mean, this 5/8, you know, it's not, it's hard to say, it's not exactly, it doesn't fit neatly into a kind of box, but we'll list the dimensions below this video. And of course, we'll link to Andrea's website, because I think he's done an absolutely wonderful job. And this is small enough that you're able to fly with this bass without having the neck coming off as well.
Yes, yes. I did a setup that I think is very interesting. So since the bass is smaller, I have a hard case for it, and then I have a 4/4 soft case, a big case that I use to protect the hard case. So it's a very good setup. It's a little bit psychologically also it works great, because when people see that, they see that's a fragile instrument, and for transportation makes a big difference also.
I was expecting you to be at the airport with a large kind of trunk, bass trunk, and I'm sure that when the handlers are loading them in and out, they just see it as cargo. It's just a hard plastic cover. They can throw it in and out of the plane or what have you. But because yours is a hard case that's in a soft case, and that really means that it just looks like a large, regular double-sized double bass, doesn't it?
And I've seen that. I've seen how they handle the bass, and they handle with lots of care, because they think is something not as sturdy as a hard case.
And I think the shape as well, we were discussing earlier about how with basses that have the neck coming off, they fold down to a kind of suitcase size thing, which again you can kind of pick up and throw quite easily. If you're
that's why they break so many cellos, right? Because the cello,
they can throw it.
They can throw it.
But with this, because the neck's still on, they've got to actually, it isn't an easy lift in that way. You can't pick it, the shape is different. And so it kind of looks more fragile as well. Whereas in fact, there's a hard case inside the soft case.
Exactly. And this with this bass has more than 100 international trips for sure.
Wow.
And no problem so far. No problem. And I dropped the bass a couple times.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you bringing it across, because it's been fantastic to hear you play. And also, we did want to say that Marcos tried out my bass, which is a regular 3/4 size instrument with a more conventional string length. And you know, you played everything that you could play on this really comfortably. It was.
We talked about that, the difference of a couple inches when you distribute that across the whole neck. It's very little. It's very little.
Absolutely.
You know? So.
But the benefits of having a smaller instrument in terms of portability and weight and obviously flying with it, really it's a very cool thing, and that's a wonderful double bass, and I really appreciate you bringing it across, and great work to Andrea Spada. Thank you, that's great. So thanks for watching. I hope you found that engaging, and we've given you something to think about in terms of instruments that you don't need to be playing these huge double basses. And that's the wonderful thing about the world of double basses. There's so much variety. You know, if you play the fiddle, they're all pretty much the same size, aren't they? But with the double bass, it's a whole different journey. So we hope you've enjoyed this. And if you want to learn more from Marcos, please check out his videos over at discoverdoublebase.com.